An interesting article appeared in the British magazine The Spectator this week, which made the claim that Vikings were winning the culture war. For those unfamiliar with the publication, The Spectator is the oldest English language magazine in the world and is often at the leading edge of national and international political and cultural conversations, so this article is meaningful in terms of where the Norse raiders currently are in the cultural zeitgeist. In the article, author Ed West reproduced one of his Substack posts where he looked at the modern obsession with the Northmen and sought to explain why this was happening. Links to the Spectator article and Substack page are in the description below. So what did the article say? Well, Mr. West begins by recounting the horrific treatment of a sacrifice victim, as reported to his masters at the Abbasid Caliphate in Baghdad by the Arabic diplomat Ahmad ibn Fadlan from the year 922. This is to presumably demonstrate the brutality and backwardness of these northern European pagans, in contrast with the monotheistic Muslims of the Arab world at the time. This theme continues throughout when the Norse are contrasted with Anglo-Saxon and Frankish Christians, although the author does allow himself to criticise Charlemagne for his hypocritical promiscuity and, more notably, brutality in converting the Germanic peoples at the point of a sword. There is no mention of the outrage of the destruction of the continental Saxon sacred Irminsul tree by the Holy Roman Emperor's forces during the Saxon Wars, though. He cites Robert Eggers's fantastic and bloody new revenge epic, The Northman, as an example of the gratuitous violence and ritual murder that was a feature of Scandinavian society at this time, which reflects the account Ibn Fadlan made. So why does Mr. West believe Vikings are winning the culture war? Two main themes are at the root of his contention: modern-day attitudes to sex and TV and movie audiences' seemingly voracious appetite for Viking-based content. Writing about the allure of Christianity and the Viking defeat in the original medieval culture war, West wrote, "Being linked to a wider European civilization and far more literate had immense advantages and would win, despite their belief in peace and male sexual restraint being so weirdly counterintuitive. The losing polytheists had their worldview confined to history as Christianity swept across Scandinavia. Yet today the Norsemen, or Vikings, a historically imperfect but impossibly attractive term, are themselves embroiled in a new culture war, and this time they might win from beyond the grave." He continued, "The Northman is part of a wider Viking cultural renaissance of recent years, with The Last Kingdom, the adaptation of Bernard Cornwell's book series, the Netflix show Vikings, as well as 3 Thor films, are forthcoming out this summer." Where Mr. West believes sex has a role in this new phenomenon is in the apparently free and easy attitude the Norse had in this regard. He contrasted this with traditional Victorian values which harked back to the alleged morality of Alfred the Great of Wessex. He wrote, "The fact that Alfred was tormented by sexual desires which he prayed to God to free him from made him all the more virtuous and relatable to Victorians. He was a hero for a pre-ironic age. Today, such an internal sexual struggle is looked down upon, seen as unhealthy and hypocritical, positively weird. English nationalism is worthy of the thralls." To prove the Norse were sexually laissez-faire, he wrote, "The behaviour of Freya, the goddess who represented womanhood in Norse mythology, is illustrative. She took many lovers and is said to have slept with every elf in Asgard without any sense of shame. To many post-Christians, there is huge attraction to such a society. Sympathetic historians point out the prejudices of sexually frustrated medieval monks whose lack of a healthy outlet resulted in lurid fantasies about pagan behaviour as well as misogyny. But is Freya really the benchmark upon which Norse women should be judged? I think not, and there is little real substance to the notion of the freewheeling, bed-hopping, town-raiding shield maiden. On the occasions when women did accompany men on raids, they were unlikely to be involved in any of the fighting and would have been restricted to provisioning the warriors or, potentially, performing rituals and magic to aid the menfolk. And does ubiquity really represent victory? The Northman faced a barrage of criticism from those on the left for its realistic portrayal of gender roles in Norse society and its historically accurate casting choices which only featured white actors. The same cannot be said of TV shows like Vikings, the spin-off Vikings Valhalla, and The Last Kingdom, which have featured a number of female warrior characters and more diverse casting. So are Vikings really winning the culture war, or have they been subsumed and conquered by it? Furthermore, it is bizarre to use the Marvel franchise's Thor films as evidence of a Viking victory in the so-called culture war. There are many things one can say about these, but that they are a fair and accurate portrayal of Norse society is not one of them. Yes, nominally Viking-connected content is currently popular, but if these shows and films are inaccurate caricatures of the real history, often with the addition of plot themes based on modern-day social issues, is this really a win for them? I suppose there is a chance that after watching some of these shows, people may seek out the Eddas or study the history of the Vikings and their precursor Bronze Age traditions. And it is certainly true that books on Vikings are also popular, but these are sometimes fairly revisionist efforts aiming to amp up controversial new theories to ensure often sensationalist media coverage and generate book sales. I think, in reality, Norse history and mythology is a rich source of story and intrigue for unimaginative TV and movie execs to plunder. It is the Vikings who are now being raided, and that doesn't sound like a victory to me. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and most importantly subscribe. And thanks very much for watching.